action. But if it's the end result, we have a huge problem. If it's the end result. This is going to drive me crazy, guys. I can't do this. Rewind a little bit. Where are we at? If talking is the end result, if not action, then there's your problem right there. We don't need to talk about any of that. Well, let's get into the details, and then we have the youth, and we're this and that. And like, I'll tell you, no, that's not the issue. Forget all of that. There's no need of going into those separate articles and those separate subject matters. And no. The real issue is that we just keep sitting and talking about issues, complaining about issues, pointing out issues, but never actually getting up off our behinds to collectively, not individualistically, collectively address those issues, not the way that we want, but according to the template that has already been established over 1,400 years of success using it. We don't need to recreate the wheel. Right? So for me, there's my youth group. 18 to 40. We missed the boat. MashaAllah. I'm getting to the point now where I can't even see the dock anymore. Subhanallah. Why? Because we need to address this. Okay. Now we all understand this because we have to be of again, a common problem is that for those people who really do want to act, okay, they want to act, meaning like they've got an objective, meaning they've established a mission, like, yes, there's this problem, we know this is a problem, it's a challenge, it's got to get dealt with, I want to work on that, I want to commit to that, dedicate to that, I'm into that, I'm sincere, and they're correct. They're not lying, but they don't know how to get from point A to point B. Do you see what I'm saying? Like there's where they're at and there's where they want to go, but they don't know how to get from point A to point B. So then they start like, I'll figure it out. Don't do that. That's not deen. That's not our Islam. There's no I'll figure it out. There's I'll follow the template. If I don't know what the template is or the application of that template, right, in this particular context, that means that is like putting up a red flag. You're ignorant. Go learn. Don't just like try to figure it out like, but seems good enough to me. This is not like your house where if you like don't want to fix something properly, right, you put some duct tape on it, you know what I mean, a little bit of bubble gum, a paper clip, you know what I mean, say I'll fix it next year, and 5 years later, like, yeah, everybody's still looking at the kind of like the what do you call it, the silly putty sliding off the wall from your last attempt to fix it. Yeah, all these Band-Aid solutions. It's not our house that we can do it. This is the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the representation of the truth, which means it is there to bring us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not for us to do with as we want or as we will. Or otherwise, where is the submission in that? And there is the original problem. Before we can deal with the youth or any other issues, we have to deal with ourselves. And what's the first issue that we have to deal with ourselves? Is that, look, stop trying to do it your way. By yourself. But people are annoying and people are frustrating and people have issues, and yeah, they do. And so do you. And so do I. And so did the Sahaba. This is one of the things that like now that, so now like I'm talking about action, one of the things we're going to get into now is like, we're actually going to talk about the lives of Sahaba, and I'm going to bring some of these incidents and these stories in front of you so that you can see that these are not mythical creatures or mythical figures in the past that were like we're not Orientalists where you like they needed to fabricate these types of like characters and personas in the past to kind of like found it. Like, no, these are real individuals. I'm going to give you examples of how real they were. And I don't want to say in spite of that or despite that, but even though they had that human frailty, right, that all of us have, Look at what Allah Ta'ala will do with a human being if we'll just submit. Even though you got problems and I got problems, there was never a promise that we were ever going to become perfect. Allah said the deen is perfect, not us. Just submit to the perfection. Isn't that beautiful? Think about it. Submit to the perfection. And see how perfect Allah will make you before it's over. Because based on that is your identity for all of eternity. While like everybody's like in social circles and social media trying to like convince people of who they are or make presentations. Oh, look at me. They're constantly taking selfies or doing videos and this and that and the other. Look at me. They want validation. They want an identity. They want to be recognized. And it means absolutely nothing. Now think about it. Here's the irony. While they're wasting their lives doing this, seeking validation from the creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at me. Look at my degree. Look what I do for a living. Look how much money I have. Look what my kids have done. Look where my kids are going to school. Look how many kids I have. Look at like, whatever. How many boy kids as opposed to girl kids, or how many girl kids as opposed to boy kids. Like everything, right? We're just constantly looking for something to hype ourselves up with. And if we're not doing it, somebody is using us, right, as the means to hype themselves up with. The irony is that while the individual has become completely distracted with the vain and useless, with the petty and insubstantial, he or she has wasted their single opportunity to establish and to acquire validation from the creator of the universe. You wasted your life seeking it from creatures. And actually, what you were looking for was in your purpose. The actual purpose, the reason why you exist. Allah said, I created you because I want to give you an identity. And I want that identity to be associated with me. I want it to be based on your relationship with me. Even Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. How does Allah Ta'ala introduce him to us? وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. Allah is saying, I want you to be my abd. I want you associated with me, the creator of the universe. That's the identity I want you to have. An engineer, a doctor, like what? What? There are no promises for any of that. There's no promises if you make a certain amount of money during your lifetime. There's no promises if you have a certain number of children in your lifetime. There's some that if you have a certain number, you take care of them properly, of course. But that's where we want to get to. From 7 to 10, before that child reaches puberty, we all understand there's something as parents, as elders, as family members, that we have a collective responsibility to these young people during that time period, right? So we help to raise them, to rear them, right? Like, mashallah, like we do it together, right? We're teaching them Quran, and like when they have issues, we get together to try to figure out the issues, and we go through the bad times and the good times together. It really is a community effort. It really does take a community to raise these children, right? We know that. That's the reason why all of us, whether you have children or not, or whether your children are grown, right? All of us, if you like ask during Jumu'ah, please raise your hands if you believe that Quran classes for our children are important. You would be surprised if somebody did not raise their hand. Actually, like we probably all like stop and like look at him like, he's an imposter. What is he doing in there? Right? Who are you? Where'd you come from? Get him, grab him, get him out of here. Right? Something's wrong here. Nobody and no Muslim in their right mind. Right? Now, yes, it was a setup. Here comes the other foot. Okay, so we believe that to get us to puberty. What made us think that after puberty we were done? Huh? Were you 40? What made you, like when you graduated from high school, what part of that made you think you were done? Because you were 40? Okay, so when you finish college, No. Okay, let's go look. When you got married. Okay, a little further. So when you had your first child, or maybe the second, or possibly the third, look, at what point did you think there was a reasonable thought that you could validate in your own mind that said, I'm good. I am a mature, responsible, productive Muslim. I am doing at least, bare minimum, I am doing the exact or more, the bare minimum of what my Rabb wants from me. Meaning, I am fulfilling my obligations to Allah and His creation, and I am not engaging in anything haram. I am meeting my minimum requirements, right? 5 times daily salat, fasting in Ramadan, you know how we do. Alhamdulillah. Okay? But that also includes the akhlaq. That also includes the tongue. See, we think it's just like, I got to 5 times salat, I have to pay zakat, I have to fast in Ramadan. No, that's not it. Because we said, what's fard? We all agree on that. Fard obligations. Having an excellent akhlaq is an obligation upon us. How do we know? Because when we break against that akhlaq, when we go against the grain of that akhlaq of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, there are sins associated with it. There are punishments associated with it. There are recommendations and encouragements to get away from that, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. That's how we know. So now my question is this: what is the developmental process? Not for an elementary school kid or a middle school kid or a high school kid. I'm talking about what is the developmental process now for somebody going from 18 to 40. Now we knew by the time 12, 13, like you should be making salat, right? Making salat, fasting during Ramadan. You should understand you don't steal, like things like the basics. What should we, if we were supposed to understand the basics by 13, and we have just agreed, like that was not supposed to be the end of things. So now what am I supposed to be learning between 13 and 40? Because that was just 13 years, and by the way, let's knock off like the first 2-3 years maybe. Okay, so let's call it a decade. And then after that decade, you got roughly almost 3 coming after that, in which now you are supposed to spend a huge portion of your life. And this portion actually, as we were talking about with the hadith, will actually kind of to a large degree dictate or influence, affect what's going to happen after 40. That's how critical this particular time frame is. This window of opportunity. So what is supposed to be accomplished in that time period? Each and every one of us should be able to answer that question. Because that's the mission. If you're over 40, you have a different mission. If you haven't reached puberty yet, you have a different mission. But everybody else falls in this window. So now if this is where I'm at, so say for instance the 10-year-old, the adhan is being called, right? And you're like, do you know what you're supposed to be doing right now? And they're like, I don't know. You're 10 years old. Why is it that you don't know? You're 10 years old. You should know by now the importance of salah. You should know by now that is the adhan calling. Allah Ta'ala is calling us towards success. He is calling us towards hidayah. He's calling us towards Him. You should know this. You should know your wudu. You should know this. Why? Because you're 10. You're almost baligh. The deen says you should know these things by this time. Great, and we're right. Now the question is, say for instance somebody is 60 and they're coming to talk to us, right? Well, like you guys. I wish it was me. I'm just going to, for tonight, I'm with you, okay? With the youth, the 40 and under crowd, right? Just for tonight. I'm going to bring my wife with me, so that way she's happy too, right? So now, what if they come to us and they're talking to us and say, now, for you guys, this 18 to 40 crowd, where you're an adult in Islam, Where 18 is like the end juncture for that. Like pretty much you got to this point, you're an adult. Now, what are you supposed to be able to do right now? What are you supposed to be learning right now? By the time you reach the age of 40, what should you have accomplished in terms of maturation, spiritual milestones, emotional and psychological milestones in terms of development, right? Maturation. What things should you have gotten under control by this time? You see what I mean? Like, what are the objectives of this age group in terms of development? Because Islam is meant to develop us across the board. It's holistic development. Mind, body, soul. Psychological, spiritual, emotional, nothing. Allah says it's perfect, gentlemen. Ladies, subhanAllah, perfect. Okay? So now when you're talking about the youth, next time you hear it like, and the youth, ask yourself these questions. And when our solution to things is a young and inexperienced youth director in most masajid in the country, basketball games, a talk, and pizza. If nothing else, it indicates a severe lack of understanding of the problem. Like, that was your solution. Like, imagine, you like Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, right? And there was a hillock in Mecca. And on the other side of the hillock, you'd be able to see like armies approaching and whatnot. So Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara, right? Save yourselves and your family and those who are like you or with you, right? From the hellfire. So now he goes to this hillock and he calls the Quraysh, okay? And he gives the battle warning basically, right? So indicating an alarm, meaning we are under attack. Okay, so it's like a call to arms. We are in collective danger, all of us, right? So it doesn't matter what you do at that point. Everybody stops what they're doing. Why? Because there is a shared danger that we all have to meet together. You see the mindset? You see the mindset here? So then they all come, right? Now, imagine Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he tells them, he says, now, what if I were to tell you that there is an army that is on the other side of this hill and they're coming? And they said, an army? A big one? Quick, get a basketball. You, get pizza. Huh? And who are going to lead this assault? The young, inexperienced amongst us. We're going to put him at the tip of the spear. Poor guy. I don't mean this to like erode, like, no. I feel like it's unfair to them. I feel like there are a lot of times they're being put into a position that they can't possibly understand nor possibly address the issues, like illa ma sha Allah. So they're at a distinct disadvantage whether they are conscious of it or not, right? So it's kind of like not fair. I actually feel bad for these guys. I mean, I was one of those guys. I've been that guy before. How do you think I know? I have been him. So all the brothers out there like, I know. I've been that guy. I felt it. Okay? MashaAllah. Anyway, because I want to sit with you like as we got the questions here. MashaAllah. I'm not talking to me anymore. I want to go through this with you real quick. Where are we at? Oh, we're good. MashaAllah. I want to go through this with you real quick. So we're going to ask these questions, and you can use your phones or, preferably use your phones, put in the answers. But if you want, raise your hand also. I'm okay with this. Okay. So what are the top 3 issues you think the youth are struggling with? Select 3 by texting with commas between the letters. For example, A, comma, C, comma, F. Adults and then youth. So first, you want the adults. So who are the adults now? Look, everybody's confused. Look at, which, I know I was in one of those categories. Like, so here, so for here, we're going to use the 16, or high school, college age. That was the intent behind the question. So this high school and college age. Because generally in communities, For the most part, if they're talking about problems and challenges, like things that have been happening in the community, more than likely they're talking about youth that are in this high school and college age group. Now, while you're doing that, do you know how these categories or these like options got on here? Nope. Well, yeah, I guess you could say that. In a way, yeah, right? Informal survey. Because this is what I get. This is what, like, people like myself, if you, like, these are the general categories. It's usually going to hit one of these. Multiple. If it's one, it's like, sweet. Usually it's multiple. That's the reason why, like, what do you think the top 3 are? Because it's usually one of those, like, this led to that, which then kind of, you know how Shaitan works. He's never happy getting us to commit one sin, right? He wants that one to lead to the next one, like, he's really into our advancement in sin, He's like, don't be a quitter. You got to strive in sin. Put in that extra effort to move to the next level, all right? He's always there with encouragement. This whole Shaitan character. وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. Oh, mashallah. Good here. Mm-hmm. On mine is the top left hand, right there in the top left hand corner. See it? I would say this is a fair reflection.
Yeah, on the that actually.
Yeah, this is. The LGBTQ, we just, yeah. It depends on where you're at, is what I'm finding out. Where you live, the kind of like the demographics of the area that you live on whether this is an issue. Now, for us in Illinois, because of the certain laws that are being passed and whatnot, like it becomes an issue in our education or in the academic system, okay? Which we're all of us are there's a lot of discussion, creative thought, and hopefully viable solutions that are being worked on and being produced, mashallah. It's also why we're here as well. But for the most part, for whatever it's worth, hear me about this. 10 years. 5 to 10 years, 10 years. Then you will see it. Not yet. It's still, yes, relatively new. Most of these things, like once they start, you got to get, now it used to be longer than that. But now because of social media and the internet, like that's why I'm saying like 10 years, yes. It's possible within 5 because you just can't really account for advancements in technology and like the levels of exposure, the speed and rate of exposure, these types of things. It's just, everything is just moving so fast that it's like there's a process of erosion, but then you get a deluge of rain and like that erosion process all of a sudden just speeds up on you. So you will actually start seeing this stuff more and more prevalent in the Muslim community in the next 5 to 10 years if we don't do something about it now. Even if we do something about it now, I doubt very seriously it's even possible to avoid seeing a noticeable increase of situations or challenges that families are facing in this regard. Exposure. Remember something about this. I have to do I was supposed to do it last month, so it's still on my agenda, inshallah. Just addressing this whole topic in totality, beginning all the way to the end, and packaging it so that, like, as a Muslim, like, just one thing, right? And fine, now leave it alone, I can go on with life. All right? But remember this. there's a thing that, like, we call it innocence. I don't know if you can necessarily call that, but I think you know what I'm talking about, that a child has. All right? In Islamic, one of the foundations, the principles of fiqh is to avoid the system itself. The legal system is designed not to just for people to avoid sin, but to prevent it, right? And to prevent it from taking root within a society. Because once it takes root, you got to think of it like dandelions, right? They're like weeds. You could cut the top off, you know, but like every summer, it's just like it's worse and worse and worse until finally it's just killed all the grass. And even if you kill the dandelions, it's just like barren dirt, right? So we have to deal with this whole thing. Okay. So, what ends up happening is our young people who normally in a proper environment and atmosphere, the only way that they would have been exposed to this stuff were, like, say, for instance, we have to discuss the wata when doing tafsir and Qawm Lut, right? And then it is not with the detail so much as to explain, like, the parameters of the sin itself enough that it can be recognized and avoided. Nothing more than that. Do you see what I mean? Now, from there, that child is not exposed to this. They have maintained their innocence, meaning they're not going to be thinking it. Like, there may be anomalies. There is a percentage. And even in the fiqh and everything, like, it's not that, like, once that thing was introduced by the people of Lut alayhi salam, it's kind of like with the Qabil and Habil, murder, right? Once this thing has been introduced into the kind of like the gene pool or like the collective psyche of human beings, it's there. Okay? Every time, like, there's something like, think about like our collective nature, if you want to think about it, has been contaminated. What is the proof of that? Even after Nuh alayhi salam, here we are. Right? Over and over and over again. Allah gives us all the warnings in the Quran, but here we are doing the same stupid stuff Allah Ta'ala told us not to do in the Quran. Who's we? Meaning us in the Muslim community. Exactly what Allah says don't do. These people were destroyed because of that. And that's the reason why Allah told us, because Allah knows this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do. So I'm going to give you all the warnings. People are like, why only 25 prophets mentioned in the Quran? Why not all of them? Because Allah singled these out to let us know, like, these people, they did this. Here's their prophet. Allah told them don't do it. They did it anyway. They were destroyed. You people are going to do the same thing. Because you're not going to pay attention. Why? Because you're distracted. Why? Because of your desires. Why? Because of your sense of self. Nafs. Okay? So now when you're looking at this and saying, okay, now how do we approach this? Because, like, if we're going to look at this, like, with the whole, like, think about the dandelions again, right? So now how are we going to approach this in such a way that we do not remove the innocence of these children? We have to keep the innocence of the children, because what they've done already is that they have now put images, pictures, ideas, concepts in their heads that shaitan will now use, manipulate, influence, excite, etc., that had it not been for the introduction and injection of these thoughts and concepts into the psyche of this child, he or she would have never have come up with it on their own. And it's not just about this subject. That's drugs, alcohol, promiscuity, etc. When we normalize sin, when we normalize immorality, we cannot be surprised that living in that society, that our children and ourselves, that we are affected. It's like a landfill is being made around us. Big garbage trucks are coming and they're dumping garbage, and it's like, hey, do you see that? A garbage truck just dumped that garbage right there. I know, one just came and did it right there. There's some more coming down. What are they? Hold on here. Now, you see the dump trucks bringing the garbage. You smell the garbage. Be like, oh, it'll stop. Well, at least it's over there. It's not touching me. What happens after a while? You're surrounded by the garbage. Your clothes become permeated with the smell of the garbage. Some of the garbage has gotten on you, and here's the real kicker. You can't smell it really anymore. Because as you were sitting there, you became desensitized to the actual odor of the garbage. So you really don't even smell anything wrong anymore. And like with the garbage, like, yeah, they added some more, but I mean, like, there was already a lot, so if they add a little bit more, I mean, did it really make a big difference? Really? Really? Do you see? So this process of desensitization and normalization of sin in general. And sin in general. Right? So now when we look at these issues, when we actually tackle this stuff, we're going to look at it not individual, as much it is about what? Understanding the mentality behind the sins. Attack the mentality. Change the mentality that is motivating or driving the sin. Stop getting lost in trying to change an action while you're trying to keep the root. Otherwise, you're just chopping the heads off of dandelions. They will be back. How well do you know your kids' issues? Rank on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being you know very little, and 10 being you know everything. 1 to 10. I'm not sure how this one goes. Do you know your kids? Look at them. Like, it's like, I don't know. Do you know me? I might know you. I think sometimes. He's like, how about, but that's the thing, though. But here's the thing. Some parents, like, you say that, right? But at least you know that. Some parents actually think their kids do share everything. They're not. No, they're not. This week, we were sitting with some board members, and we were discussing, like, some of these youth issues, right? Like, just youth, right? And so one of the things was, especially with young girls, they'll leave the house one way, right? And then they make a pit stop, and then they like butterflies in reverse, and then they come out something different. Yeah, and recently, it was a couple of months ago, we had the whole thing, some of the sisters, young sisters in the community, they got caught out, right? And they weren't in butterfly mode, okay? And so the mother calls and like she ratted them all out. She was like, yes, they did this, I caught them, and Sheikh, you need to do a khutbah about this. And I said, yes, I will, yes. So I had to do like a little segment just to make sure that I kept my word. But it's real, it's happening. It's real, it's happening. And I mean, I'll be quite honest with you, like for those of you who are in the know, brothers, look, sisters, the stuff that's going on out there, like honestly, it's not even appropriate to mention it in the masjid. I'll be like honest with you, okay? Because remember, we're talking about high school, college age. The stuff that's going on, it's not appropriate for inside of the masjid. And I'm not talking about isolated incidents, okay? There is a culture and a subculture, and right? There are some that like are kind of like on the periphery, just like life hasn't changed. It's a micro society of youth, okay? So like with all the personalities and the quirks and the differences and the little factions and cliques and like, it's exactly the same way. It's exactly the same way. And they're like, oh, Allahu Akbar, there's a lot of different things going on. Before I even look at this, okay, I'm going to say that I believe that parents think they know what's going on. I'd be surprised if if half of them are actually right. I would be surprised if, let's see what we got. Okay, where are we at? So like basically 99% between 7 and 9. I hope you're right. Depends on the age group. It really does. So like if this is the numbers and you're talking about like middle school, yeah, I'd say that's pretty solid. You're talking about high school age? What year of high school? Junior, senior, like, yeah, senior in high school, huh? and you think you know everything? Yeah, doubt it. Doubt it. That's how it is. And you can't be surprised. Look, think about what they see, what they're listening to, what they're exposed to. Also think about this. I was having a talk with a parent after Jumu'ah. Please remember this, okay? These youth, they're like, thinking about it, and they're like early 20s and they're late teens and everything right now. Think about when they were born. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you're talking about people that were like born 2000, 2001, 2, 3, 4, like people that were born around or after the time of 9/11. They don't even know what it was like before that. They don't know what it was like before the internet. They don't know what it was like before cell phones and social media. They don't know what it was like before we had answer machines and pagers and cords on our phones. They don't know what it's like to not be able to constantly access people at any time for any reason, like under the sun. They don't know. They have been bombarded with images, ideas, concepts, alien and familiar, and they've been hit through means like modes that never existed before. And it was all happening at one time to a child's psyche. And because it happened so fast to us, we didn't recognize what was happening really until it was basically too late. And not only were our children affected, but be quite honest with you, we were as well. And now there is a very critical eye that is turned upon these young people. That what's wrong with them? They're weak, and they're this, and they're that. They're snowflakes, and blah, blah, blah. And some of that is true. But there's a reason behind it. And if you can understand the cause, then you can mitigate or even solve the effect. Right? And we are part of the cause. We need to understand where they're coming from so that they do feel comfortable to speak to us. We can't judge them, but we can't give them a pass either. You see what I mean? So your kid comes to you and does something wrong, they're going to know that, like, yeah, I'm going to call you out on that. I'm going to call you out on that. You knew that coming in. I'm not going to be like, well, you know, this time it's okay. No, it ain't. But at the same time, we'll tackle it together. Even like the punishment, this and that and the other, it's not because I want you punished. Like, I'm in a situation with my Allah myself. You think I want to punish you? I'm trying to avoid punishment myself. I'm not into the whole punishment thing, kid. Okay? I don't want punishment for you. I don't want punishment for me. But look, you got to deal with your nafs, and I got to deal with your nafs and my nafs. It's not fair. You just got yours. I got mine and yours. Okay? The punishment is about training your nafs. So now they know. It's like, my father, my mother, they do this because they love me. They're not angry in regards of like you need anger management. They're not foaming at the mouth. They're not judging me and calling me the worst person in the world, or like some family members do, like, I don't even know if you're Muslim anymore. Family members say the most god-awful things to each other. Like, I have had like family like come in and brothers, like literally in tears because of like they did something wrong and the family just like piranha. And I'm like, no wonder you guys are scared to talk to people. Like, I'd be scared to talk to them too. Look at this. It's like ferocious. In one or two words, what do you believe is the hidden potential you see in your youth today? This one thing, one or two words. What do you believe is the hidden potential you see in our youth today? And I'll give you my two words. My 2 words: receptivity and hunger. I had to choose 2 that I think nobody else was going to come up with, right? So that way, anybody puts that up there, we know that you jacked my words there. What do I mean by receptivity? I am finding that these young people are extremely receptive. Even when they're like, you think that they're locked into like a particular idea or mindset or something, like no, they believe this, and they seem very staunch about like their belief in this particular thing. And they very well may be initially. But I have personally found like they're actually willing to sit down with you, engage in discussion, and if you can prove your point, right? Like to the point where they're satisfied, they're completely comfortable like changing right there. Like not like, well, I don't know. I've been like thinking this way for some time. I'm not sure if I'm ready to leave it yet. No. They're like, oh, I was wrong. You're right. Okay, fine. I do what you do now. And I think that that's phenomenal because I'm telling you, 30 years ago, it was nothing like that. But they've got this receptivity. And then hunger. I say hunger, not meaning like an appetite, meaning for a caloric appetite. Here I mean hunger. I think they're becoming more and more hungry for the truth. And they're not necessarily attached to any ethnicity, culture, like dogma, right? A lot of them are completely, again, that receptivity, right? But they're hungry. Like they recognize like there's this thing that's inside of me that's missing, right? And a lot of them, like Allah's bringing them here. So now we have this whole category where I'm dealing with converts of these young people who have returned back to the deen. They've returned back to Islam. And their energy, their excitement, it's kind of like they went out there, I tasted the dunya, spit it out, I'm back, okay? I should have listened to you, I didn't, I'm back, let's fix this whole thing. I'm ready now. So like that hunger, with that like, no, I went out there, I tried it, right? But now they're receptive, they're ready, like these guys are engines. Like if we can get enough of them locked on, like these guys, mashallah, you will see like leadership, management of masajid, organization. You will see, I'm telling you, if these youth, right, if we can get them the environment, the atmosphere, right, that they need, if we can get them the facilitation that they need, I'm telling you, like we have like in terms of like it's going to be a different future in terms of tech and this and that and the other. I honestly believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given us the building blocks as a community, as an ummah, to be able to survive whatever the heck is coming next, right? In terms of all this tech, this and that and the other, because of like what I see in these youth. I see something special that I don't necessarily think I've really ever seen before in these youth. And I really do think it has to do with like that specific unique challenge that they're going to have to face. But we have to help them to realize that potential. We have to help them so that they can mature into those mature adult leaders, Muslim leaders, right? They can take the ummah right into the like from theirs into the next shoulders and so on and so forth. So okay. I'm going to ask a stupid question. What is HOJB? I'm going to make a dua about HOJB. Okay. One way or the other, I'm telling you that next month's program, so for the month of October, it will not be a program like this. What I would like to do for those who are interested, and we'll be contacting some people as well, is that I would like to actually, even tonight I didn't want to do the table thing, but things were a bit more active like this past, the times are coming down and everything, right? Because I don't want everybody involved in this discussion. I am only looking for those people that are looking to actually, like you're ready to do on a large scale. I don't play in sandboxes. I don't build sandcastles. Not really into that. right? We talk about solutions and we start looking at like roots. If you want to deal with root issues, you can't that's not something you can fiddle with. It's not a hobbyist mentality. You can't approach it with a volunteer mentality. It's a root problem. You got to commit yourself to addressing it. We have a team already that is already actually doing that. It's about now like adding these human resources and the experience, expertise, and all the energy, like all types, right, to that, so that as fast as possible, we can meet these challenges that are necessary to protect the minds and the hearts of our youth. So we will sit down and we will have just a discussion. That's it, right? What I want to know from you is this. How do you see it? You've heard my perspective, okay? I think you've heard it enough, more than what I even wanted to do. But now I want to hear your perspective, because it matters. Your input matters, and you have different perspectives. Some have young kids, some older kids, some my kids are adults. I'm a grandparent, or I'm the kid. I'm in college right now, right? But all of these perspectives, but when you get a bunch of people that are like, look, we know we've got issues. We all have different perspectives of that issue that's sitting in the middle of us, right? Let's share all of our perspectives so that way we have a what? We have a well-developed, kind of a very thorough understanding of the issue because of all the input, because of all the perspectives. Do you see what I mean? So like even when we present a solution, right? It's like, okay, well, how does this solution look from the perspective of somebody in their early 20s, or somebody who's in their 40s, or somebody who's in their 30s and is just like had their second or third child, right? Or somebody who's like, I got grown kids and now I'm in my 40s or moving into my 50s. Like the perspective is going to be different, but with all those perspectives, we get a thorough response. We get a more accurate response. Why? Data points. Research, data collection, right? Statistical analysis, meaning that I want to actually approach this methodically, systematically, meaning, yes, research, analytics, actually collecting data, doing like, and trying to engage in survey and coming up with creative ways to engage in research within the Muslim community, because surveys don't generally like work too well. Like we're a very cagey lot, we are, okay? But if you have those ideas, bring them to the forefront also. This is about us fixing the problem and finding out who's done talking and who's actually willing to do something. The ones who like to talking, that's fine. That's what sidelines are for. Do you ever see football games or like basketball games, baseball games? The people who are on the sidelines are the people who do what? They're relaxed, they're talking. The ones who are not on the sidelines are in the game. They're focused. They're trying to win. It takes both of them. So that's fine. So whoever's on the sidelines, whoever wants to talk, that's fine. MashaAllah. May Allah Ta'ala bless you, make dua for us. But whoever wants to actually get on the court, get on the field, right, and put some focus in and get in the game, let's get together and like actually like pull this whole thing together without our egos, but with our sincerity. Inshallah. May Allah Ta'ala make it easy. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala accept us. Please forgive me. Like I said, this is really like, there were some adjustments, some things that happened this last couple of weeks. I wanted to do something different, but yeah. Again, you got to think long term, right? I'm in this for the long term. So everything like this is chess, not checkers. All right, and that's the way that I'm approaching it. I wanted to do something different, but I had to adjust based on the context that I was dealing with at this time. Okay, but it's like next month, that's a no-brainer. We sit down and start talking about, make sure we understand the thoroughness of the problem and actually start talking about solutions. Before we leave the next program, I actually would like for us to actually be tasked out, meaning like, what do we do now? Forget about like the next program we're talking about, no. We want to leave the next program with tasks in hand, meaning like, let's get this thing accomplished, even like this, this, and this by this date. You see what I mean? Okay? And get the ball rolling. Enough talking, inshallah. The talking should just be for explaining on how to do from now on, inshallah. Questions, worries, problems, concerns? No, this is for that. That's why. That's not because, yeah, there's preliminaries. We need to explain what all that means, inshallah. Like we need to because I don't do volunteers, brother. Like we have volunteers, like volunteers have their place. I'm interested in workers. Workers, meaning you're going to work this like a second job. You're going to commit to this with your boss being Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more so than you commit to your 9 to 5. Right? You're willing to make sacrifices. You see this as an obligation that you have made upon yourself, inshallah. Yes, Habibi.
You said about pizza, basketball, and the youth. So you had a list of all the things that can be problematic for our youth. So isn't that not being on the list?
Oh, the inadequate response to these issues.
But still, it is distracting kids and removing them from all of the stuff that they could have been.
Oh no. Here's the thing. Don't this is something that takes place like very common in the Muslim community. It's this or that, on or off. Okay, it has to be a holistic approach, meaning those things have their utilities, right? But if you're thinking it's kind of like I like to have whatever. I like to have a heater in the car during the wintertime. Is it absolutely necessary though? No. I'm talking about necessary components. Basketball is not necessary, right? Pizza is not necessary. But now if you want to change that and say physical activity as a topic, and then that's one of many. Feeding Muslims and using food to bring the hearts together as a topic, and pizza is just one of many. So now we've made it component level, but then also we need to look at the bigger picture and say is that going to solve problems? So think of it like triage. So on the battlefield, the guy gets wounded, right, and the medic comes up. What's his job? Perform surgery right there? No. Okay, his whole job is I need to deal with the immediacy of the situation and then get them to where they can get long-term professional care, like care that they need, right? Intense care. So yeah, imagine if there's triage though, but never in a hospital. Imagine if there's a tourniquet applied, but there's never any surgery. There's never anybody to take that tourniquet off. What happens to that leg? What happens to the leg if you leave the tourniquet on? Do you know? You know what a tourniquet is? Yes. So if you have a major wound, like say for instance there is an arterial wound, right? And you have arterial bleeding. Now, you are going to try to basically cut off that artery, right? Pinch it basically to stop the blood from flowing out. Because basically in a minute, 2 minutes, you're going to bleed to death. Do you see what I mean? So now, but here's the thing. The leg needs blood, and you're cutting all of it off, like little veins, big veins, you're cutting everybody off as much as possible. You got to stop this vein from bleeding. And you have to pull tight. It's painful. Even if you just do it now, there's no wound. It's painful, right? Now, here's the thing. Every so often, you have to loosen that tourniquet, let the blood flow into the leg, okay? And then after it's and then reapply it again. So it's an off-on type of thing. But you can only do it for so long. Why? The wound. It was a temporary measure. It was meant to staunch the bleeding until you can get professional, the level of care that you need. But if you don't, this is what happens. The leg dies, and you have to amputate it. So is there anything wrong with basketball, pizzas, and talks, and the same way there's nothing wrong with a tourniquet? But if that's the final solution, that's a huge problem. Because at the end of the day, proof is in the pudding. Is it working? For me, that's all I care about. I look at the results. Is it working? Because Allah Ta'ala is the one who, natijatu indallah, the results come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now sometimes when you're seeing one thing is the results are not there yet. And that's fine, that's okay. Sometimes even with Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, it takes time, right? You may or may not see him immediately, but if you see the opposite, then that means potentially what you're doing is destructive at that point. Meaning, initially, yeah, you're putting on the tourniquet, and it's we stopped the bleeding, we got some time to get him to help, right? We bought ourselves some time. There's a chance we can save the leg. But at a certain point, though, it's come on, how many times have we retied this tourniquet? You see what I mean? So we have to take a holistic approach. And that's the reason why, that's what I want to show you, right? I want to show you how we're going to address everything. The confidence, their identities, education, life skills. Do you know that like how many of these young people that I talk to, that they've never changed a tire? Some of them have never pumped their own gas. They've never held a job. They've never been in even like just a regular old fist fight between two boys. Some of them, I got people that are in their 30s that have never had their own bank account without their parents. Do you understand what I mean? I've got 33-year-olds that act like they're 23 and 23-year-olds that are acting like they're 13. Something is horribly wrong. And the attention spans of goldfish. Generally in the Muslim community, you got a hot 15 to 20 minutes. You go beyond that if you want to. Look what happened here. You got a hot 15 to 20 minutes. If you're captivating, which I don't even know what the heck that means anymore. You might squeeze another 10 out. But like, it's the select ones. You keep talking or you keep going because like there's something there. Like even like I'm talking now, I feel like there's something there. I don't even know what it is. There's something there. Something is happening. Allah's doing something somewhere that I'm not aware of it. Right? But that's how this whole thing works. Not quantity, quality. Question is, which one are we a part of? The quantity or the quality? May Allah Ta'ala make us from amongst the quality. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullah khairan jazaa wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Please be ready, inshallah, next month. Like I said, all this ain't happening. No cameras, no nothing. It's just us seated, right? We're going to sit off to the side in a halaqah together. I'll give you the parameters and we're going to sit down and we're going to hash this whole thing out. And even the results, I'm actually going to present the results to the board. This is not like by ourselves. Like I actually want to put this in front of them and speak for you on your behalf. Look, sat down with the community, everything. This is what came out of it. This could be a benefit to you. Now, how can we take this information? The next step, what can we do this or this and that and the other? Meaning, I want to be your advocate. Okay? Help me do that. And I need to, so that means I need to know what's in your hearts, what's in your minds, what your concerns are, what you think solutions are, right? Don't feel shy to speak. And if any point in time, if I'm straightforward, right? So if at any point in time, I love all of you, okay? Please, if I ever do anything to hurt anybody's feelings, I humbly request, please forgive me. It's absolutely not intended, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum.